Welcome everyone to History 3326, Modern African History Online. I'm going to be your instructor this semester, Dr. Davey. So I just wanted to post this video up to say welcome to the class, tell you all a little bit about myself and my expectations for the course. I finished my bachelor's degree in 2006 in history from Michigan State University. And attended the same school for my PhD, which I completed in West African history in 2015. My research focuses on indigenous African slave systems, particularly in the eastern Niger Delta, in the city-state of Bani. And I examine these indigenous slave systems through the use of a life history, particularly that of 19th century slave-turned-king named Jaja of Apobo. And so ultimately my work uses his life to examine how social, political, and economic mobility allowed Igbo slaves in the Niger Delta to reconnect with their natal homes in the hinterland. While I was doing my PhD at Michigan State, I also was an editorial assistant for the Journal of West African History from its inception in 2013 until I graduated in 2015. And while I was there, I was also a program manager for a National Endowment for the Humanities, Africa, and World History Summer Teaching Institute. In this particular institute, what we did is we brought together leading Africanist scholars from universities around the nation to work with K-12 educators so that they can better incorporate Africa into their K-12 world history courses. So I did archival and oral research in the UK and West Africa, and I'm proficient in 2 African languages, namely Igbo and West African Pidgin English. So that's a little bit about myself. I'm a Metro Detroiter, born and raised, so the cold weather this week really isn't bothering me too much. Now, just to explain what it is you can expect from the course this semester. There are a number of documents posted up to our Blackboard page that I expect you all to access this week. First and foremost, and really the most important of all of them, is the course syllabus. You'll find that posted under the Course Information tab. Now, the reason the syllabus is so important is, one, this is the contract between you all and myself, and really it lays out my expectations for assignments and for the course overall. And secondly, this is going to be your guide throughout the semester, so please don't look at it once and disregard it. This is going to give us our course schedule, let us know what we're doing on a week-to-week basis, and explains what's expected for exams, quizzes, and papers. So, just to walk you through some of those documents, we have a document that explains how the course is laid out. And here I really want to emphasize that this is not like the old school correspondence courses. You are not going to be working on your own time, at your own pace, and on your own schedule. There is a weekly schedule posted in our syllabus, and all of our course materials will work along with that weekly schedule. Chief among them is going to be the weekly PowerPoint lectures that I post up to Blackboard. You'll be able to find those under the course content and lectures and case studies folder. So really here, these are required. You are expected to access these every single week. And to this end, we will be dealing with a course sort of forum or discussion every single week. I'll be posting up a question to you all, and you're expected to answer that question using information from those weekly lectures, which, as I said, are required, and the weekly required readings. And that's why it's so important to stay on top of the material on a week-to-week basis. You can't let it go for 3 to 4 weeks and expect to get credit in those discussion forums. Another way that I'm going to be testing to see if you're staying on top of the material is with our quizzes. And really the quizzes in this course are going to be oriented around geography. In an African history course, I think it's really critical that we understand what is playing out spatially as well as thematically or temporally. In other words, you need to understand what part of Africa we're talking about. It's a big continent with a lot of diverse cultures and people. And so we have to avoid speaking generally. We have to avoid speaking about Africans as much as possible and try and pinpoint some of the specific areas that we're identifying in our weekly lectures and readings. And so those quizzes are going to be map quizzes. And they're not going to be traditional political maps that you're used to seeing in the first 2 quizzes. That won't come along until the 3rd quiz, where you'll have a map of modern Africa and be expected to find the modern nations that we're used to seeing today. What we're going to be doing is The first quiz is oriented around the landscape of Africa, the general terrain, mostly rivers, lakes, mountain ranges, deserts, the physical geography that shaped the history that we're going to be looking at. Our second quiz will be organized around the colonies of Africa. In other words, you're going to be asked to identify what the colony is as well as the colonial power that governed that colony. And then, as I mentioned, our third quiz will be a political map, the ones that you're sort of used to seeing if you were to Google map of Africa. So that's what the quizzes are all about. And the exams are going to work roughly the same way as the quizzes. There's going to be a window that opens up, and during the window, you are expected to access that quiz. And as soon as you open the quiz or exam up, ultimately, you will have to finish it in one sitting. This is to avoid cheating, looking in textbooks, things of that nature. So you can go and look at the document How Quizzes, Exams, and Papers Work to sort of get the lay of the land for how when those quizzes and exams are going to be coming up and when you're going to need to access those quizzes and exams. Now, there is a very large writing component to this course. It's ultimately going to form about 35% of your overall grade, and that's going to be split up amongst two assignments. The first is a research paper proposal. Here I'm asking you to put together the materials, the topic, and your thesis to explain what you intend to do with your larger research paper. And this is really to help me get an idea of what it is you want to look at and help you avoid potential pitfalls. For example, if you come up with a thesis that's just rooted in misinformation, I can help you steer clear of that thesis and reorganize it by the time you actually get to the 25% research paper. Now, this paper is expected to be around 4 to 6 pages long, and it's going to use primary source documents, which are documents that were created during the time period under investigation. So, for example, if you're looking at colonialism in Nigeria, what's expected is that your primary source is going to be produced in Nigeria from the colonial period. And so you're going to be looking at these primary source documents and sort of analyzing them to reinforce your thesis. And then you're going to be using secondary sources like textbooks, wider monographs, and the lectures themselves to sort of provide the context for the situation in which your primary sources were produced. And I'll talk a lot more about that paper assignment as we come a little bit closer to it. Now, in addition to the required weekly readings and the required weekly lectures, the PowerPoints that you're going to have to access, I'm also going to be trying to post weekly video lectures, something similar to what you're seeing right here. Now, these short videos are really intended to just sort of show you the big picture, the cause and effect of what we're looking at in the PowerPoint lecture for that week. The PowerPoint lectures are understandably very detail-oriented, and I know that a lot of people can get bogged down in the names and the dates. And so the video lecture, which is not mandatory, it's something you can choose to access or choose to ignore. It's really your prerogative. But if you find it useful and effective, I'll be posting these videos up to sort of just give you the big picture or the big takeaway from that week's topic. So I think that's just about all I have to say. I would like you all to, use this week to get comfortable with the Blackboard page. Obviously, it's going to be our primary medium of instruction, our medium of assessment, and our medium of communication back and forth. So just make sure you take some time to get used to that page. If you have any questions at all, please don't hesitate to email me. You can find my email in the syllabus and in the document called Contacting the Instructor. I will be holding weekly office hours, although as online students, I've noticed that I tend not to see too many of you around campus. So just know that you can always get a hold of me by email, and you can also use the messaging system through Blackboard, although I am a little bit less responsive to that than I am to direct emails. So I'm really looking forward to a great semester. I'm looking forward to working with all of you. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, feel free to reach out to me. Stay warm out there.